Hello everyone, in today's video I will tell you how to make any of these cars really soft and comfortable, like the good old 120th Prado. The thing is, with these cars, almost practically always, the KDSS system will be installed. For those who are not familiar, KDSS is an active stabilizer bar. Here in my right hand is a part of this stabilizer, and on the left, this is a regular stabilizer bar from the classic GX470. Or the 120 Prado has a similar stabilizer. So with the introduction of the KDSS system, potential, let's say, buyers and owners split into two categories. The first said, finally, SUVs are starting to handle well. And they kind of started to enjoy the new new good handling. These vehicles gained new customers. Those who previously didn't consider them because they were unstable and soft, now began to take interest in them only because of this system. And the second group of people, when they first drove a car with this system, said that the car became stiff and rigid and it was impossible to drive well, and continued collecting money either for the 200 for hydraulics or for the LX570. Or some even left and bought cars of a different brand. And let's say my attitude towards the KDSS system is, well, rather negative, but I am by no means imposing my opinion on you. Let's say I have one complaint towards Toyota because they essentially didn't give their customers a choice. If in the 470th GX, where this system first appeared, there was a choice. There was a sport package with this kind of stabilizer, and all other packages had regular stabilizers. Later another package with KDSS appeared, but nonetheless there was a choice. If you want a soft ride, buy this GX. If you want a sporty one, buy that. Starting with these bodies, both Prado and GX always have KDSS. Such a stabilizer may be found on some basic Prado with 2.7. I want to clarify here. That was the situation in the first generation of the 150 body. Later, some Toyota had made more configurations without KDSS. If you visit Toyota's website today, you will see that KDSS remains only in the top modifications of the Prado. Thus, there is a choice today. But if you want the maximum configuration, a loss in comfort is guaranteed. And today I want to show you a way to get rid of this system. How to install a regular stabilizer. In fact, it is possible. So essentially right now before your eyes an experiment is taking place. In my hands is a part of the KDSS system from a Lexus GX460, meaning at the moment this vehicle has no stabilizers at all. That is, we have already partially removed the KDSS stabilizers and the new ones are not yet installed. Well, I think I will demonstrate this to you now. Here there is KDSS and here there is no KDSS. So the thing is, I have been familiar with this system for a long time, ever since 2014. When I noticed it on the example of the Lexus GX470, I saw how people struggled with these cars. Some even sold this poo. That is G470 in the sport configuration with KDSS were sold and later bought regular Lexuses because this system did not suit them. But since I was well acquainted with these cars, I found out that this system can be dismantled and a regular stabilizer installed. And actually in 2014, for the first time on the GX470, my friends and I at the service station dismantled this system and installed a regular stabilizer. I posted the report on this event on Drive2 and on forums. Later many cars came to me and we removed these systems. Many people also called from other cities wanting these systems removed, but on these vehicles it hasn't been widespread yet. It seems there were already reports last year someone did it for the first time on a Prado. Actually, they did it according to my instructions. The front is the same. At the back there are a few complications. Today I will show you all of this, but since I'm making this video essentially for a large audience, and not everyone goes through forums and so on, not everyone understands what's happening, I want to show you an experiment that will allow you to safely make a decision. If you don't like KDSS, with this experiment, you can understand whether you'll really like the car without this system. So, at this stage, the front and rear stabilizers were dismantled on the GX. So here they are in my hands. The hydraulics, everything is completely in place because at this stage it can all be put back in literally half an hour and the car will drive again as it was. In general, what I advise, if you don't like this system, if you have doubts, well, or if you're familiar, you know how a car behaves without a stabilizer. But still, what can be done? We remove these two stabilizers, go out. Well, I think about half an hour to an hour will be enough for you to decide. if you didn't like it and you didn't feel any excessive softness, although it's unlikely, but nevertheless. Less than you can forget about this experiment, attach everything back and never return to this topic. But if a smile doesn't leave your face after every bump, every speed bump or railway crossing, then this video is exactly for you today. I will explain step by step how to dismantle this system, install a regular stabilizer and get a smooth, comfortable car like the good old 120th Prado. Of course, naturally the car will become more wobbly and won't have the same good stability as with KDSS. Well, the reasons why and what will change I think don't need to be explained to you, that's it. These are the two front stabilizers, the regular one and KDSS. Of course, as I will show them to you on camera now. The thickness of the regular one is 35 millimeters and this one I think is 45 or 47 millimeters. So we have a Prado with top level suspension, meaning we have adjustable shocks, air suspension in the back and a KDSS system. And with the arrival of the KDSS system, which we will be discussing today, these vehicles really started to handle well. Their body roll was significantly reduced and the feeling of cornering in them became pleasant. But there is a downside. The downside is the stiffness. The vehicles have become significantly stiffer with the KDSS system. The longitudinal rocking has not changed much. That is, when we encounter such rocking, the vehicle behaves absolutely adequately. I am fine with that. But in the case when we have some lateral swaying, the car with the KDSS system starts handling it rather roughly. Here, if it works now, most likely it will show here. I'll just relax now and you just watch what happens. Well, like this when the car, see, look. So I wasn't swaying, I just relaxed so you could see it more clearly. This sway from left to right is a bit confusing. KDSS is not always worse. On small bumps where there are a lot of them, when the wheel starts to jump, vibrate and these unsprung masses show themselves negatively, with KDSS the car behaves better, the wheels jump less. That's really how it is. Moreover, if you nitpick, those who are really into it probably notice that the car is not symmetrical. So, well, in general, if you have never ridden in such cars, it all depends on which car you are coming from. And after some cars, if you get into a Prado, you might ask, man, are you okay? What stiffness are you talking about? This is just a soft car, all the bumps are gone on the road. But those in the know, those who understand what the good old 120 or GX without KDSS are, they will say, yes, these cars have become stiffer. And another nuance is reliability. That is, catch the average owner of a Pradic 120. Ask when they change the stabilizer bushings, they won't answer. Stop the owner of a 105 vehicle, ask them, and they'll most likely say they changed them at the previous maintenance. At least some bushings, but they did change them. There are 6 here and some fail right at each maintenance, while others less frequently. Here, and most importantly, you can feel them inside the car. If your bushings are worn out, you will feel a knock and you'll be forced to replace them because driving with such a knock is unpleasant. Here's the thing, bushings are the first little things which just add a bit of hassle. Actually, no, they don't really add hassle. Well, change the oil, change the bushings. It's a small thing, they are inexpensive. But there are also reliability problems. That is, the KDSS can start knocking, it can leak and it may begin to tilt. And a slant can also appear where your left side will be much higher than the right. Here, and the most frustrating thing is that it is very difficult to diagnose. Even if you open the official manual for almost any of these complaints, there is a sequence of actions. First, we bleed the system. If that doesn't help, we replace the front cylinder. If that doesn't help, we replace the rear hydraulic cylinder. If that doesn't help, we replace the hydraulic accumulators with the valve block assembly. Previously, these were 2 parts. In this model, it's already 1 part. So basically, it's called replacing everything here. And this doesn't happen to everyone. So a bright example, 120,000 kilometers driven and no problems with KDSS at all. In short, I told you about KDSS. Now let's move to the GX without KDSS and we will continue the discussion on this topic. So let's begin. What happens during the experiment? You remove 2 stabilizers and left the service station. Your car is completely without a stabilizer. Most likely at the service station they will try to scare you that You can't drive without stabilizers because you might roll over and it's very dangerous. But I'll be honest with you, I drove various GX without stabilizers in this experimental state for a long time, probably several thousand kilometers, both in the city and on the highway. And I'll tell you, yes, the car's behavior is very soft, very swaying. Drive out from the service station. Well, for the first 5 seconds, do it like this. Understand what is happening with the car. That's it. Your driving style adjusts in your head. You understand what and how, and everything will be fine. Everything is normal. If you roll over in a car without a stabilizer, then you can consider yourself a unique person and you lack a survival instinct. Well, I don't believe that you can just take and roll over in a car just like that. So if you start driving aggressively without anti-roll bars and get into a situation where you'll have to dodge or go into a drift, well, of course you might roll over. But you just shouldn't be drifting in a car without stabilizers, weighing 2.5 tons. And with a ground clearance of 25 centimeters. Anyway, let's forget about this topic. Just know that you need to be careful, but there's nothing to worry about. So immediately find a bad road and go there in order to feel what stabilizer bar is like, how it affects the vehicle's behavior, and I'm sure you will be shocked. You probably don't expect such smoothness but it will feel like each wheel is on its own. And if your right wheel hits a pothole, only the right wheel deals with it. The whole car doesn't realize the right wheel hit a pothole. That means the softness will be uncompromising. The body roll you see in a turn, yes, will be uncompromisingly large. It is indeed there, somewhat scary at first glance, yes, but this is not the final result. In the end, you will get a normal, balanced car. If possible, I don't know, but try driving a regular 120th Prado. Yes, try driving a GX470, the one without KDSS. You'll get approximately the same thing. If that's not possible, then this experiment will help you understand and make a decision. Oh, actually, I'm not imposing my opinion on anyone. Well, I know many people who drive these cars, who have driven all these cars, starting with the 120th Prado and ending with the GX, and they objectively say that they like KDSS. You go out, conduct the experiment, draw conclusions, and then, depending on the conclusions you've made, the next part of the video will either be very useful and necessary for you, or you can just watch it for interest. Right now we found a very good test site. There's a section of a bad road here, and I want to clearly show you how a car behaves with the KDSS system and without it. So I will accelerate to a speed of 25 kilometers per hour. Then I will sit completely relaxed. I will not exaggerate any effects. I will just relax equally in both cars so you can see what oscillations occur. So let's go. 150 parade, KDSS system, speed 25. But the hydraulics are all in place. Since we decided to install regular stabilizers, we are removing everything related to the KDSS system without regret, as it will interfere in some areas. We release the pressure in the hydraulics and remove the hydraulic cylinders. Next, the valve block with the hydraulic accumulators is removed, and then the tubes will follow. By the way, there are hydraulic cylinders and valve blocks for sale in working condition for the GX470, Prado 150 and GX460. All these parts are removed easily and without damage, but there are problems with the pipes in Navigator. It's practically impossible to remove them without damage. No one will separate the frame from the body just for them, so they are often simply cut, broken, and so on. But after removing the KDSS, you can proceed to install a regular stabilizer. Let's start with the front one. It's simple here. By the way, this is the reason why the tubes need to be removed. In this place, they will interfere with our new stabilizer. So in the front, the holes for the brackets are already on the frame. Some just need to be drilled a bit more. This is half the success. And the other half is that the suspension includes a mounting point for the links of a standard stabilizer. Although there could not have been such a stabilizer here. In this case, versatility is a lifesaver. The only hitch is that there is no thread for the stabilizer brackets in the frame.
The easiest way to solve this problem is to make devices like this. It's a plate with 2 bolts and a handle to make it easy to install. However, to install it, you need to remove the front bumper and the reinforcement. Fortunately, this is not difficult, and it is then installed through the end of the frame. On the passenger side, you need to remove the excess protrusions from the KDSS mount. Well, then all that's left is to fasten it. Done! The front stabilizer is in place. Everything is installed just like at the factory. I even drove several times with the front stabilizer and without the rear one. So the front stabilizer accounts for about 70% of the success. And now we move on to the rear stabilizer. It's more complicated at the back. Versatility doesn't apply here, and there are no mounts for a regular stabilizer at all. Although earlier on the 470GX, the axle was universal and had both types of mounts, for the regular stabilizer and for KDSS. But for the 460 or Prado, 4 mounts need to be manufactured. A couple of big ones are the bridge mounts, and 2 smaller ones are the mounts on the frame. After that, we touch up everything, and we can proceed with the installation. We attach the stabilizer, and we get everything as if from the factory.
Dacă stabilizer, I know what it's been on top of the saman. That up the car's not left. When the car's on his wheels, everything available. Here's an example. The build of stabilizer.
So the car is ready, and don't forget the final touch, the spacer under the left spring. Owners of body-on-frame vehicles know the nuances of vehicle weight distribution. It is heavier on the left side. Moreover, in configurations with KDSS, the right spring is longer. As a result, after removing the KDSS, the car becomes lower on the left side, and the most effective way to level it is to install a 15 to 20 mm spacer under the front left spring. Often after removing KDSS, it is also necessary to readjust the rear air suspension, raise it a little higher to avoid bottoming out, as the vehicle has become softer. So, the conclusion. The car is completely ready, converted from the KDSS system to a regular stabilizer. What did we achieve in the end? Of course, the car became much more comfortable, much softer, but naturally there are greater body rolls. If we compare it in simple terms, on the left we have a car with KDSS, on the right without. This is comfort, that is sport. So there is less body roll here, but it's stiff. Here it is very comfortable and soft, but there are body rolls. In this video you heard the phrase, it will be as soft as the old 120 Prado. Roughly, right? That was a very rough expression, as each vehicle behaves differently. There, the 120 Prado behaves one way, the same GX 370. Where 80% of the suspension is the same, behaves differently. This vehicle without the KDSS system turned out to be completely unique and behaves in completely different, unlike anything else. We compared it. I had the opportunity to compare the GX 470 and this 460GX. Absolutely identical systems, that is, both are on air suspension, both with adjustable TEMs, both in good condition, equally adjusted on air suspension. In this case, we also have the same sway bars, just like on the 470GX. I will take turns driving both cars on the same road. So this car is much more composed, it is more stable, it leans less in turns and shakes less. In some situations, like with Sapadimis, or perhaps it will feel stiffer, but overall it retains comfort. That's if you compare, without KSS at all, this suspension. It's a different generation with different shock absorbers, and they perform more interestingly, yes here. Regarding the tilting. In this situation, KDSS and without KDSS, the simplest example we will now show you visually, it will be a turn. Speed of 40 km per hour, the same on both cars. First pass Pradic, second pass GX. That is, first we have the KDSS system, then without KDSS with a regular stabilizer. Let's watch. The next aspect associated with the KDSS system is off-roading. Toyota itself positions KDSS as an aid for off-road driving, as it interferes less with the diagonal travel of the suspension than a regular stabilizer, which resists. And you might have even seen an official Toyota video where you can see the difference with the KDSS system and without. Well, today we also found a good spot, and we'll show you this. Diagonal articulation on these two vehicles with the KDSS system and without. So the first run, the 150 Prado with the KDSS system. Let's watch. My opinion on this? Yes, possibly. If we make a video similar to the Toyota commercial, where one car has a clearance of 2 centimeters and the other 4, then yes, we can clearly see those 2 centimeters and say that yes, indeed, KDSS it helps off-road. But in a situation like ours, with really serious suspension articulation, around 30 centimeters, the extra 2 centimeters provided by the system don't help us at all. In my opinion, the KDSS system is the last thing we should consider off-road. It's much more important to simply understand the array of features the vehicle has besides this. It's the low gear, which makes things much easier to control the vehicle's movement at low speed in complex situations. This is a lock that helps drive more steadily. And these are electronic assistants. By the way, they work very well here too. And few people know, but there are different modes here, and this system works differently. Now, using the GX as an example, I'll show you how the vehicle behaves with the low gear and lock engaged as it goes diagonally, and how it will behave by default if nothing is activated. Watch. As you can see, because the system does not block the suspended wheels at all. The car just skids with 2 wheels that are suspended diagonally and cannot go anywhere. All we need to do is just press a couple of buttons on the steering wheel. Go into the modes, set to mountain mode, and press OK. And now watch what happens. We just got into the situation where, ideally, KDSS should have helped us. This is diagonal hanging. But agree, we forgot about it here. There are absolutely other things more important here than our KDSS system. This suspension has a large travel even with a regular stabilizer. And if it's about really serious off-road, then this is where Pradik might show itself. Since it is top tier, we have a rear lock. And now I will show you how it goes through the same obstacle, but with 2 locks. Watch. What am I getting at with all this? Is that you can basically forget about the off-road Codesa. The only thing you need to focus on if you're thinking about removing this system is just the roll in turn, safety and comfort. In general, I personally can't tell you that. For example, well, a soft wobbly car, better, for example, such a maneuverable but stiff one. Worse or the opposite? No, each opinion is individual. Everyone decides for themselves, and you must decide for yourself if there is an opportunity to experiment. To try different options. Just try it. I just decided to show you that this opportunity exists and you can do it. Everyone follows their own path. I'm not going to persuade anyone. I respect everyone's opinion. Simply, if an opinion is based on knowledge, no questions asked, I agree with it. If your opinion is based on not knowing all the nuances, then this video was exactly to tell you all the nuances. From there, you make your own decision. Another very important point that I almost forgot to mention, you should only consider removing the KDSS system if your car is in perfect condition and the reason for stiffness is not something else. First, your TEM system, the suspension stiffness control system, must be fully functional. So if it goes into error, there might not be any alerts on the dashboard, but you will have the highest level of stiffness. The car will be stiff. You need to check if it is working. How to check? Start the car, turn on the sport mode. One person in the cabin presses the brake pedal, pumps it like this, while another person holds the shock absorber, that is the actuator on top, with their hand. And at the moment of pumping the brake pedal, you should feel a vibration in the shock absorber. That is, it should click and change these modes. This is the simplest way to diagnose it without disassembly, as all 4 shock absorbers should click the same when the brake pedal is pressed. Next, you should have the correct height for the rear air suspension. If your rear air suspension is lower than the normal level, you will constantly hit and you'll bounce on speed bumps. Overall, the behavior of the rear suspension will be inadequate. You should have a normal height for the rear suspension. If normal, let's move on. The KDSS system. There should be normal pressure in the hydraulics. I've seen cars where in winter the pressure was, for example, 3 and 5. That should not be. This is easily checked with diagnostics. Connect it, check. There is a table to set the pressure depending on the ambient temperature. Yes, in summer it can be 3 and 2 pressure. In winter it can be it will drop to 2.6, 2.5, and so TD, and so on. If all these details are correct and you are sure your car is in good condition, yet it still feels stiff and you don't like it, only then should you consider getting rid of this system and installing regular stabilizers.
It's also worth knowing that after removing the KDSS error indicator will light up on the dashboard. This issue is easy to fix. You need to remove the fuse shown on the screen. It is located inside the cabin, on the driver's side under the steering wheel. After that, disconnect the battery terminal for a few minutes. The error will disappear. If you have any questions, write in the comments and I will respond.